Oh, hey guys, by the way, I'm Ryan.
And I'm Travis.
And this is, the start of our series. We just want to welcome you and a journey that's a part of our life and things we're interested in, and hopefully you're interested too. So hang out with us, grab your favorite cup of coffee, let us know how you made it, because that's our interest lately, and thank you for being here. We appreciate it.
Very much appreciate it. So I thought it was interesting, I had mentioned to you before, was how work has changed over...
We'll get used to it.
I know, I will. So I had mentioned that fact and I looked it up. So Henry Ford literally, he changed the assembly line, but he essentially changed our modern workday. And the specific fact was in May of 1926 was kind of in the heart of the industrial kind of, labor move, and the average wage was $2.34 for a worker, but people on average were working over 10 to 16-hour days.
Wow.
People were kind of they were just wrung out like wet rags to just squeeze everything out of a person for the day, and they'd work about 6 days a week. And I would say it was even worse. Like you read stories about, in London, during the Industrial Revolution, like kid labor, essentially child labor, and that's where child labor laws. And that's also too where unions came out of, because of all the disparity and essentially how workers were being treated. So they essentially unionized to create standards. So, but he... at the time, he essentially doubled their wage. He moved it to $5 per day, what the normal average auto worker made. And then he basically halved their hours, made them work 8 hours a day, and then only 5 days a week. And people thought that he was an idiot. People thought it was ridiculous. People didn't think that that's how people should work. But it turned out to increase his productivity. It turned out to be a genius move. So I think that's really interesting, is that our concept of work and how we work is only actually within the past 100 years been normalized. So
that's interesting. $5 and something cents. That seems like a lot of money as a wage back then.
Well, I think that was $5 per day.
Oh, I thought you were saying it was per hour.
I thought it was per hour, but when I read it, it was $2.34 for a 9 hour.
Okay.
9 hours. So that was per day.
That makes more sense.
Yeah,
because I was thinking there's still states, I think the lowest minimum wage was $6.50 or something. Or it was $6.50, $7.25. I'll have to look it up.
Yeah, it's 7 something.
But it was one of the, I think, Midwest states. Maybe we should look that up real quick.
Well, and so the $2.34 divided by 9 hour day, that's 26 cents an hour.
It's pretty much what I was making when I first worked for my dad.
I made my first ever job with my dad was $6 an hour.
You beat me. Mine was $2.50.
No.
Yeah.
What?
It was when I was 13. I thought I told you about this. I know I've talked to Tyler.
Yeah.
He was like, hey, I know you start wanting working. How about if I gave you $1,000 and you work and you come in the summer 3 days a week, and you come with me and then leave with me, and I'll give you $1,000 this summer. And I was like, you gave me $1,000? I was like, yes. When do we start? And I didn't do the calculations and basically I'd work 3 8-hour days roughly, unless my mom picked me up early, which happened, or if I had other plans. But I was still pumped about it. And then I think it was college. So when I was 13, this happened, and not until college, I went back and did the calculations of how many hours I probably roughly worked.
Yeah.
And it was $2.50 an hour that I ended up getting paid, but I was pumped about it.
That's a valuable lesson that you learned from how your dad was able to frame the work that he needed done and how he got someone excited about it.
Yeah. And it was hard. It was basically, I was just cleaning up the yard all the time because there was a bunch of stuff, and I I worked with like one of the managers at the time that would always have projects for me,
Yeah.
and it was just cleaning up a lot of times and then disposing of chemicals a certain way.
That's actually
funny,
really
though?
funny. Yeah, I remember. So it was me and my brother. We would do essentially just yard work, essentially just like landscape work, and we actually had a per hour wage, and my dad would just pay us cash. But I just remember like I would start like later on, I would start to get really bummed out of I would work a full day and only earn $48, and so I remember the thing that specifically what I worked and what I saved up for was an iPod Nano.
Really?
That was $250, I think, at the time.
Wow.
So that wasn't, I don't know if we worked a whole summer, but I just remember that was like, that's what I was like working towards. And
That's
now
funny.
it's like, it just does not take me near as long to earn that.
Yeah.
And
Isn't that crazy? What if, that's where I think it'll be interesting, us being armed with just the knowledge of investing and how compound interest works. What would that look like? Because even if, as a parent, he was still in control of your finances.
yeah.
And he could have set up an investment account for you because you were technically working. What if you're 12 years old, and that's arguably late. So what if you're 12, 13, you start working for your parent, and your parent invests a portion of that money because it still has to be like in accordance to, I guess it doesn't have to be, not if it was just a traditional just a brokerage account, but investing like $100 a month at 13 and whatever, even that would be.
Yeah, you
12
specifically work, like, always set aside a part of it.
That could be $8,400 from the age of 13 to 20. If it was $100 a month in an investment account, assuming it gains no interest, which is earlier than, I don't know the stat, it has to be almost everyone starts investing.
Yeah.
We're finding out now on our own. No one's taught us. School didn't teach us.
No.
And we're 26. Are you 26?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm almost 27, which is crazy. And Brian was talking, he didn't invest till almost 30.
Yeah, what if you would have had that amount that he started investing with by the time you were 20? Because obviously you're going to earn interest on it. Because you would just use it for probably a lot of bonds, real estate. You put in something really low, probably a really low.
But even if it was
volatility.
even if it was an index fund, you just ride the wave of the S&P 500, and especially if it just got done going through the 7-year bull market or whatever.
What we started, that was 2007, 2008. That was when it was tanking.
I'm just saying, let's say it at least doubled, and that's very conservative.
Yeah.
It probably would have doubled twice. So it could have been easily over 20 grand, no problem. But it's just because your parent was like, I have $100 that, you made 100, I saved 100 for you and didn't tell you, or something like that. I just think that's crazy. And then the minimum wage, it looks like the lowest is, on a federal level, is $7.25, and it looks like Georgia does abide by that lowest.
Mm-hmm.
Well, then now it says, Alabama, $7.25. That's nuts. And with CTAC being 15.
Yeah.
So, and it might have been 1550. I know it was like a 3-part series that Washington was implementing for minimum wage. It's insane.
Yeah. But 26 cents an hour. Yeah, that's a little bit different than $5 an hour. So, that's literally almost 100 years ago that changed.
And go back to Henry.
Yeah, back to Henry Ford. So, but then it makes me think about how essentially what work was way before that, and how a lot of times work was just survival.
Mm-hmm.
Work was just you kind of had to. I mean, if you want to go way back to hunter-gatherer type thing, to where your job was to survive, not to make an income.
Yeah.
So I kind of find that interesting.
Yeah. I guess compare, way back to the Neanderthals of when they're starting to make tools to use as weapons or gathering, whether it be a basket to gather berries or a spear. Those were tools for survival, and now, flash forward, I don't know how many years, now our main tool is money.
Yeah.
We just don't visibly see it that way.
Yeah.
But we need money to survive, and is the tool every single person, at least in our country, has to use to receive what they need to survive, which is wild.
Yeah. Yeah, because that's kind of the system we created. Whereas back then, the system was you have to forage, or you have to find your food if you want to survive. So we've kind of just like created a different system, that we actually have to like. But then I think we agree, it's like, I think the way we go about in that system is like what's different, or like what we can do differently, or what we want to approach differently.
I think it'd be interesting to kind of, things we went from one extreme to now, of looking at maybe the transition of history of currency. I know it was probably, just barter, object for object, still for survival, to then how it ended up getting to precious metals of gold and silver.
Yeah.
Again, it might have just been objects, gold made into X or silver made into Y, but what it turned into, and then where did this socioeconomic status begin? Where did the hierarchy of who's who is important?
I have more sheep than you.
Yeah, maybe. I have more sheep. But where?
Yeah.
And then even combining that into, I guess, a religious aspect of, the priests were higher up, more important, or going in some of the different Middle Eastern religions of being born into a certain tier of importance.
Like a caste system.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. That's what I was looking for. But someone treats you a certain way depending on what caste you were born into.
Yeah.
And that's it. You can't earn, and I believe you can't even earn your way up or down. It's just, where did that start? How did it start? Why are we okay with it? Yet we also know we obviously need, maybe because we are after boundaries, we like rules and boundaries. I don't know. I'm getting a little off topic. If you want to go back to if you want to go back to Henry anymore.
Henry Ford. He's just he's our idol.
Maybe we mention this now because it would be interesting for us to look into more and then come up with more of where did currency and hierarchy come from.
But I think it is an important part of it, because you could probably say that it was the people who found if they could force other people into a system that benefited them. There's people who benefit a lot more from the system that we are in, potentially because of the way that everyone else thinks that we have to work. I've told you about this too. Get the Seth Godin blog, and he is a big free thinker on like kind of the way that the market works, and like he has expressed and talked about how the educational system kind of was developed and progressed in line with our working habits, with the Industrial Revolution. What happened was everyone had to start to go to work at these factory jobs all the time. Women started working more. So these schools were essentially kind of created in line with work. Like, also too, everyone's education was so scattered, like, because everyone would just have these weird random community school groups, and so all of a sudden everyone's education's at a different level. So people, they wanted to create a system to where they could educate people to go into a working system and have everyone be at the same level. So it was like school, and he just talks about how like it doesn't, nowadays school is not primed for the type of market and the type of system that we want people to learn and go into, because we had the fortunate ability to be like, we were like, school wasn't like overly, I wouldn't say overly difficult for both of us. We were good at it, but I feel like he makes a big point that there's a difference between being educated and actually learning something. Like, education is a system, but learning is a much more different personalized process.
Yeah.
And how those systems now, like, work is changing, like the gig economy, like we're going and working Uber jobs, delivery jobs, stuff like that. It's changing, and school has not, changed.
Yeah.
So, but kind of just to that point of like, when these systems were created with currency, but with caste systems, it just is kind of unfortunately maybe been created to benefit, people found a way to benefit themselves if they create a system that people can be involved in.
Wow. It's kind of mind-blowing.
Yeah.
Systems will be something we'll have to touch on at just a different time too, because
Yeah.
we both enjoy systems.
Oh, yeah.
Looking at companies from an objective point of view, much easier when you're not involved in the company. But I know I've talked to you about it before, but with Toyota, specifically with a specific branch that was in Michigan, wasn't operating very well. And I don't even think it was a Toyota factory. I think it was a different car dealership. I should look it up. And then Toyota bought it, turned it into a Toyota dealership, and it was all about systems. And it didn't make much sense, but it was because it was a proven system and gave the workers freedom to basically gave the workers free will. It's amazing how we have free will in this world, yet we don't have free will.
Yeah.
We have free will, yet we don't actually have freedom to make our own decisions and choices. Someone's making them for us. But just how simple the system was, but it worked perfectly. And this is a huge corporation. I just thought it was interesting.
Yeah.
But I think we should, unless you have a different specific point, I do think we should talk a little bit about maybe how you and I view work and how it's changing, and how we enjoy work. We enjoy the idea of working, earning an income, earning money, using money certain ways, and learning the whys behind it, but also how we want to keep that freedom, but limit our risk.
Yeah.
And how, I guess something the YouTuber Andre talked about, which is an example of, you have to explain, talked about getting outside that box. We're born and told, including in education, to be inside, go through the certain hoops to get to that box where you're still trapped. We want to be outside of the box, and I guess I want you to explain your view of work in general and how you view it and what you want to get to. I guess kind of take and run with it however you want.
I feel like and I don't think it's anyone's fault. I think that like culturally and socially, like we want to adapt and be a part of our community systems, and so those are the narratives that we keep portraying and keep saying, because that's what we've as a group has decided. That it just seems like a long list of compliance. Be compliant in school, to be compliant in your job, to be compliant in your life, to like, this is the track that you take. And I think that's where we've just kind of realized and decided, why is that what we need to be compliant in? Like, why is this route? And I think that's generationally changed from, we've now kind of economically, I think we're moving into a different, phase for different opportunities, where I just think like a couple generations ago, it was like these big companies was just a good opportunity, and then that's just what everyone said, like that's what you're going to want to go do, is just be into that opportunity. And then I just think we've kind of noticed that that's just maybe not exactly what we want, and trying to ask the question on, why is that the narrative that's being told? Why is that the consistent thing that's being told? And so I think it's like kind of creating an independence. How I want work to be is an independence from that. You kind of want to be above that. And this is kind of just generalizations, but to where you can kind of make the decisions what route you're told. Because I feel like once you get on that path of like, you get these certain things, you get these certain jobs, you're kind of locked into that. And then I think that's where people feel trapped, and then they kind of feel like their life almost isn't going anywhere. And I want the freedom. I want to be able to be in control of my job. I want to be able to be in control of my schedule. I want to be able to be in control of my finances, that like big picture level, that it's like, I just feel like that system, basically, that's what controls you. Is you have to answer to every point along that line, and I just don't like the thought of that. It's not inherently bad. Like I think that there's a lot of people to where systems, predictability, just the like kind of predetermined route, I think that's comfortable for some people. But I think it's like learning to give yourself the opportunity and learning what is it really that we are as individuals want to pursue. And so that's what it was like. I could just take my money that I earned from my work and just like put it in these certain things that could create a pretty standard, comfortable, livable life. But it's like, okay, but is that really what I want down the road? And so, more specifically, I think that then turns into the amount of hours that we want to work, per week. And you always talk about, and I just think it's so great it's not that we stop working, it's that we choose what we want to work on, and that we choose that, okay, I'm only going to work, 25, 30 hours at a day job, but then I'm going to go pursue and put my time and energy into other things. Because it's once again, it's just not that we want to sit on the couch and be lazy all day. Like, I think work is still I think really the core thing of what I'm trying to say, work is important, but it's what type of work and who's telling us what's important. I think it's just kind of where I'm still in that mind shift of how I view it and what I want. I just know I kind of want to be outside of that system. I kind of want to create a system that I get to call the shots on, type of thing. I know that's a lot of generalizations. I mean, do you have more specifics about?
No, I think that's good. I think I'm learning what I want, and I think I will always keep learning of what I want, and that's going to keep changing. And I think part of being outside the box is not putting yourself within a box once you get outside of the box. A lot of boxes.
Did we just get into a bigger box?
I think I've just jumped from one shoebox to a bigger shoebox. But you know what I mean? I don't want to finally get outside of I'm not going to be part of the normal of just being told what to do, and then find that freedom I'm looking for to put myself in a new one. Where I don't want to work really hard just to now be like, oh, now I'm stuck here. Where it has to keep changing. You have to keep asking what's important, and that's where we challenge each other in an area. But I mean, all your listeners too, we want to challenge you. Think about what you want as you go along. Don't just think you thought about it one moment in time. You spent a couple hours, maybe you spent a week or a month, and you're like, I know what I want now, time to get it. That's a good attitude to have, but don't stop there. You have to, part of the journey is, one, enjoy the journey. You don't want to put yourself that's what I guess we're saying, put yourself in a box to where you're like, oh, once I get there, then I can enjoy it. That's just a shortened version of working and then retiring. Because we have no idea how long we'll live for. We have no idea the surrounding of what life will look like, including a pandemic, but most things are closed. Our life is changing, and we are being told from a government down of what you can and can't do. So we're already being, it's more bringing to light that we're not in control as much as we like to think we are, but understanding you can only control what you can control, and that's yourself. But going backwards is enjoy the journey and reevaluate along you go. And that's something that it's hard. We talked about investing yesterday. I was stuck in thinking I want to keep going this route, not willing to learn and accept new information that I received. So it's about not being, ignorance is bliss. The analogy of ignorance that I was thinking about, and I said it out loud to myself, was,
laughed out loud.
I did laugh out loud, if a child doesn't know that something is hot, if the child touches it, does that mean that they won't get burnt because they don't know it's hot? And obviously you're going to get burnt, and that still applies today in every area of life is just because we don't know something doesn't make it more or less true.
Yeah.
And that's where, having our own experiences, learning from other people who have experiences, reading books, listening to people who have gone through things, listening to experts, watching YouTube videos, just gathering information. But we also have to think about that information. And that's the thing too, is when I first started really getting into reading, is I'm like, how, and I had asked you too, how do you...
I remember this question.
Yeah, how do you know what someone's saying is true or real or the best you could? Because it's really, you were having a one-way conversation where someone put all their thoughts that are edited onto a piece of paper and now you're reading them as factual.
Mm-hmm.
And you just have to read more.
Yeah.
And you have to think when you read. Don't just read because you think the more I read, the better I'm going to become. Perhaps that's true, but truly learning, opposed to just going through the hoops of education, there's a difference.
Yeah.
And read what you're interested in, but read what you're not interested in too, because that's the ignorance part.
Yeah.
Just because I'm not interested in something doesn't mean it's not true and is not going to affect me. Perhaps, and that's where the seasons come and play too. And maybe I'm not super interested in politics right now. That doesn't change that directly what's happening in the government will affect me.
Yeah.
Whether I want to read about it or not. So there is this balance of reading what you're interested in and what you're not interested in. You might gain interest, will lose interest. So, but yeah, I thought about it the other day, and I thought that was a good moment for me to listen. I spoke to myself and listened to myself.
Yeah.
And I thought that was worth sharing with you, and thought you would enjoy that too.
Yeah. Yeah, and I really like the quote, "We're all ignorant, just on different subjects."
Yeah.
It's like we have almost said that before. Because we just learned our very first valuable lesson that this camera stopped recording after 30 minutes.
Yeah.
So we had some good off-camera topic conversation.
Yeah, we did.
Actually, this made me think of a point.
That was really funny.
This is what I love. I actually now have thought of something different. The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. Probably my favorite book that I've read this year. And he has this great understanding of kind of how we view our world, and kind of based on our ignorance or what we view as truth. And he broke it down to essentially we have what's called a paradigm, and essentially is like a very, very specific, or almost like our worldview. It's kind of like how you view the world. And he said that that's kind of almost like our map to the world. Like how we view the world, how we understand the world is kind of like how we navigate the world. But he says that there are truths. Those are the things, essentially those are paradigms that you can use as a map for the world that are for how the way things are. And then he said that there are values, which are paradigms, your map, how you navigate things for how the way things should be. And so, and he talks about, and what I think is just so cool, this is getting a little off topic, but
No, you're good.
just trying harder, or just working on your attitude, or trying to be better, that doesn't help you when you have the wrong map, when you have literally the wrong directions for how you're trying to navigate the world. And I think it's what are those truths? I mean, the truth is of how politics work, and that if you're trying to use the wrong map to navigate that, you're not going to get anywhere, you're not going to learn anything, and you're not going to be any less ignorant about it.
Yeah,
And
I see what
so,
you're saying.
yeah, but values are the way we want the world to be, the way that we think about it, and which maps are we navigating the world in? Which, what values are we navigating the work world with, and what are the truths, that we're navigating it in?
Wow.
It's kind of a big time thought of how we're, moving through the world. I seriously, it's a very important book.
That was just like what you said, and that is enough for us to talk about for a whole hour on itself.
Yeah.
Which
So
maybe we should. Not this time.
tune in next time.
If you want to know how to navigate your life,
Yeah.
come to the next episode.
We'll help you design a map for your world. Not really. But yeah,
Wow.
I thought that was really really good.
Yeah.
And that can be applied to work, but can be applied to anything. It's kind of a bigger topic for, I think, we can hone in on other stuff.
Thanks for joining us today, guys. We do appreciate it. We're going to do this for a long time. This is just what we like to do. We do this anyway, and we want to record our journey and our friendship, and hopefully, anyone who views this can help you too. This is, we see you as part of our team and a friend. So, welcome and thank you. You have anything to say?
Yeah, thank you for joining us. I think this is how we sharpen ourselves. This is what we're trying to do to gain wisdom, to gain insight and understanding is, pushing ourselves, learning, and I just think this discussion is so important, and this is just what we want other people to experience. And so I'm really excited, and we'll just try and continue to get better, and hopefully people will enjoy following along with us.
Yeah.
So thanks
All right.
again.
Yeah. See you next time.